In the headlines, a new entity to be established to govern Barbados' ocean and coastal areas. The extent of Hurricane Beryl's economic impact on Barbados revealed. UE School of Graduate Studies renamed. And in sports, the Windies find themselves in a must-win situation for the rest of the T20 series against Australia.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening to you and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for NewsNight. I'm Tisha Hines. The Barbados Ocean and Coastal Authority will be established by an Act of Parliament within the coming days. The announcement is coming from Prime Minister the Honourable PM Mottley. She says the draft bill has been completed and is now being presented to Cabinet. Prime Minister Mottley was addressing the Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit 2025 in Guyana, where she said the highly anticipated authority will elevate the work to be done to elevate coastal areas.
One, from the erosion of sargassum, which is deadly on our eastern coast, but two, also from the natural erosion that is taking place as a result of agricultural runoff and other factors, and which, quite frankly, threaten what is our greatest concern, the stability of our water supply. Because if our aquifers are in fact polluted by salt water, then we will no longer be able to use those aquifers for the provision of drinking water for our people. So that coastal erosion has multiple negative consequences if we do not get on top of it.
PM Mottley adds the Barbados Marine Sustainability Trust will also seek to ensure 30% of the island's marine area, roughly 55,000 square kilometers, becomes protected space.
I say so because Barbados' land area is about 430 square kilometers, so that you begin to understand scale when we are protecting just 30%, and that 30% is the equivalent of 55,000 square kilometers. I am not the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I believe my brother Ralph will allow me to say that his country too will benefit similarly, because while they too have limited land area, they are a massive ocean state just as we are. So these conversations, Mr. President, are not academic, they are real.
And PM Mottley says, in addition to the work of the Barbados Wetlands Trust at the Graham Hall Nature Sanctuary, efforts are ongoing to preserve the remaining wetland space, much of which have been destroyed. Now, although Hurricane Beryl did not cause a humanitarian crisis in Barbados, the island took an economic hit of $193 million. That's according to a report on an assessment of the effects and impacts of Hurricane Beryl on Barbados 2024, facilitated by the Economic Commission of Latin America and the Caribbean, or ECLAC. It noted that the figure amounts to 0.15% of the country's gross domestic product. The damage accounted for 58% of the total effects, followed by 36% in losses and additional costs of 5%. Tourism, fisheries and agriculture and the environment accounted for 84% of total effects. Economic Affairs Officer at ECLAC, Dr. Omar Bello, gave an insight into the report at the Climate Resilient Recovery in the Blue Economy or Fisheries following Hurricane Beryl Forum.
The private sector accounted 52% of the total effects of the disaster. This represents 56% of the damage, 50% of the losses, and 29% of the additional costs. The share of the private sector increases to 69% when environment is excluded. I mean, the Prime Minister, PM Mottley, asked us, that we have to look at the environment sector in detail, and I think that we did a good job there.
Dr. Beryl further explains that when assessing the social, productive, infrastructural and environment sectors, the results show 60% of the total effects of the disaster was on the productive sector and 24% on the environment, while the social sector suffered 3% of the damage.
Three subsector accounts 84% of the total overall impact, as I mentioned, tourism, fisheries, and environment. This clearly shows that the major impact on the coast, especially in the west and south coast. The productive sector suffered 66% of the damage, 50% of the losses, and incurring 66% of the additional costs. Important, the environment suffered 11% of the total damage, 46% of the losses, and incur in 3% of the additional costs. Infrastructure sector suffered 20% of the total damage and incur in 29% of additional costs.
A warning issued tonight after a viral video appears to show a man spiking a woman's drink. The video shows a man slipping something into the cup of a young woman who seems to be dancing in a party. It has prompted the National Organization of Women, or NOW, to caution females who are partying this crop over to keep their drinks in sight, limit alcohol intake, and never accept drinks from strangers. NOW President Melissa Savory Gittins offered this advice.
You're asking her what was a friend, if you know you're going to be drinking, probably take somebody with you that don't drink, somebody that can help keep an eye on you, but we're asking them, don't leave your drink at the bar. You know, try to keep your drink very close to you. Simple things like that. If you leave your drink, when you come back, get a new one, right? Because you don't know what a person may do during this time. So they're asking them to be extra cautious as they go about their daily duties, extra cautious as they go to parties and fests. You know, just try your best to be cautious, and if they're not feeling well, as they think that something may be up, to call immediately for help.
This crop over, the organization has been urging women to avoid distractions like phones and headphones, especially in unfamiliar or isolated spaces. NOW is also encouraging women to use registered taxi services, call a friend when traveling after sunset, share whereabouts with family, and avoid walking alone in dark and lonely places. Now, while noting that women are free to dress how they please, Savory Gittins is also asking them to cover up as much as possible.
Sometimes I hear the man say, you know, she's dressed like that. So if she's dressed like that, he's thinking it's an invitation. So ladies, I know, yes, you are free to dress however you want. So I'm not telling you how to dress, but some people see it as an invitation. And yes, you should not have to be worried about how people see it, but if it's going to help reduce you being attacked, interfered with, possibly raped, or anything like that, I'm asking you, you know, to try to be more cautious of that, how you carry yourself and how you dress during this time to help alleviate things from escalating to a higher level that they don't have to be.
St. Philip residents have been getting free health checks through the Ministry of Health and Wellness mobile clinic. The clinic has been visiting various areas across St. Philip this month as part of the parish's Regathering 2025 activities. Member of Parliament for St. Philip North, Dr. Sonia Brown, says the clinic allows constituents access to free health checks through tests administered by friendly nurses in the comfort of their communities, excluding the anxieties of going to the doctor's office.
It started at the beginning of July. The last one will be in a few days, Saturday. It started, I think we did 4 or 5 so far, or it will be about 5. As soon as July opened up with the regathering, we had started. The response has been fantastic. Today may be a little quiet because of the rain. But they were in Bailey's Car Park at one point. They had to turn back people. The response, for instance, by Beulah Church was fantastic. So people are wanting and ready and waiting to be checked to see how their lives are going.
Dr. Brown says the response to the mobile clinic has been overwhelming.
Yes, we are doing the regathering with all the history of St. Philip North and everything, but I thought it was prudent to bring the NCDs to the fore. And we just heard that the increase in the cancer and so on in the island. We know about the cardiovascular illnesses. We know about the asthma and everything else associated with the non-communicable diseases. So I thought it was prudent to bring the Ministry of Health into the communities so that people can have themselves checked. As a screening method, not for treatment, of course, because there are many people out there that are unaware that they have lumps in the breast or that their blood pressure is high or that they're new diabetic.
Among the activities that will stand out during CariFesta 15 are the planned discussions. One of them will be called Climate Change. That's according to Director of the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., Graham Clark. He was speaking as a guest on TTT's Now TV program in Trinidad and Tobago.
As you know, we are all vulnerable economies within the Caribbean, and it's very important that we focus on preparing ourselves, not just as a response to what is happening climate-wise, but to get ahead, to mitigate and to plan and to strategize so that we can create a legacy going forward. And as you know, our Prime Minister, she has been a leading voice and a global advocate for small island developing states in this area, and we want to really do well as we look forward to planning for the future in relation to climate.
There's great interest in the new mental health legislation. That's according to Deputy Chairman of the National Mental Health Committee, Dr. Joy Sue. She says the new legislative notes they have shared have truly whet the public's appetite. Dr. Sue was speaking on the topic during today's edition of Morning Barbados.
A lot of persons ask a lot of questions about promoting mental health and getting the word out there and so on. So it shows that people really are interested in this, that they want to see more happening in this area. They want to see more support for this area, and they want Barbadians as a whole to be aware of what Kay said, that this is a shared struggle. It's not just for one person, and that we need to have a whole of society kind of approach to improving mental health here.
And according to National Mental Health Commission Coordinator Kay Belgrave, they've created a new mental health directory. This, she says, will go a long way in reducing stigmas associated with mental health. Ms. Belgrave stresses that the hotline has received in excess of 8,000 calls since its implementation back in April of 2024.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people, and it became very clear to all of us, that there's a need for a hotline as well too. But with the directory, what we've done is we've allowed persons to know where they can safely access proper care. We've allowed persons to know where they can, what their options are for care. We've even defined the types of care within the mental health services as well too. And we've divided the directory into different segments. So we have public services, we have private services, we have NGOs, we have civil society and faith-based organizations as well. So when you look at the directory, you now have an official set of information from the government of Barbados outlining where you can access services.
The University of the West Indies Cave Campus School of Graduate Studies now bears a new name. It will now be known as the V. Udine Baratow Complex. This is in recognition of the monumental impact of Emerita Professor, the Most Honorable Udine Baratow, on the campus. The unanimous decision was made following the discussion by the university's naming committee. Rachel Agard has that story.
A phenomenal woman. That's how Emerita Professor, the Most Honorable Udine Baratow, has been described. Moreover, her contribution to the advancement of the Cave Hill campus is regarded as nothing short of outstanding. And in recognition of her visionary leadership and distinguished service, the School of Graduate Studies now bears her name. Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Sir Hilary Beckles, reflecting on Professor Baratow's journey at the university, recalls he met her some 50 years ago as students on campus.
Udine's commitment was carefully crafted. UE grad, New York University grad, back home scholar, professor here, professor there, visiting scholar here, visiting scholar there. But her center of gravity has not left this university. And we thank her for that. We thank her for that. Because that is the commitment on which we build intergenerational growth.
In his tribute, Professor Barato's son, Cabral Barato Foster, says while his mother had a prolific career over the last 43 years, she is the family standard bearer and lighthouse in the middle of all storms.
After the storm, our first interest is always to the well-being of the ships. Less attention is paid to the lighthouse to see how it fared even after it saved vulnerable vessels from the storm. Today we celebrate our lighthouse. Today we acknowledge that endurance is still hard for the durable, that compassion is still costly for the selfless. The will to be a lighthouse makes you no less of a loving person, makes it no easier to weather the storm.
The woman of the moment, Emerita Professor Barato, the former principal and campus coordinator for graduate studies and research, says during her many roles, she determined that the university must function as a think tank for the entire Caribbean region.
I believe then, and I still believe, that the UWI Caville campus is an indelible, intrinsic pillar of the educational infrastructure of Barbados and the Caribbean. I believe the Caville campus is obligated to offer increasingly vital solutions to improve societal well-being within the region. And I wanted our graduate students to understand that gaining a postgraduate degree was more than adding another qualification to their resume.
She says her doors will remain open to help those who are in need of her assistance. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
There's a call tonight for greater collaboration between governments and international agencies to transform the national and global landscape to allow micro, small, and medium enterprises to thrive. It is coming from Minister of Energy and Business, Senator Lisa Cummins, who is suggesting business support organizations connect with counterparts across the globe to create new value supply chains and unlock market opportunities. Ms. Cummins says the partnerships can also create decent jobs, especially for the youth and women, and build more inclusive and climate-resilient economies. She was addressing the Global SME Conference in Johannesburg, South Africa, on behalf of Barbados and the Caribbean.
With alignment and structure and with intentional interventions, we can go further. Strengthening SME ecosystems through a system-wide approach is not just a development goal. It is a necessity for our survival and our sustainability. In a global environment with so much instability, we need to know that we built systems that last and relationships that adapt and pivot that can withstand turbulence and challenges. So ITC's mandate and its work continue to be so relevant in this moment.
The minister adds that measures must be taken to ensure the inaugural ministerial conference provides a timely opportunity for countries to share experiences and concrete solutions on SME matters.
Reaffirm them and then execute on that need for tailored support to SMEs, especially in small island developing states. We need here to highlight region-specific needs, such as digital access, and plug the solutions into the ecosystem that we've been speaking about. We need to strengthen collaboration between governments, development organizations, and business support organizations, and ultimately to build a consensus among key actions that can make a tangible difference to SMEs.
Climate change is a daily reality and a national priority for Barbados. Deputy Chief Agricultural Officer Barney Callender made the observation during his address at the 8th Annual Barbados Food Law and Industry Conference at the Courtyard Marriott Resort today. Deputizing for Minister of Agriculture, Food and Nutritional Security, Inder Weir, Mr. Callender told those present climate change is not a distant threat, but a reality.
The Deputy Chief Agricultural Officer says Barbados is facing many vulnerabilities, including water scarcity, extreme weather conditions and soil degradation. However, he says within crises lie opportunity, and the government has embarked upon transformational initiatives.
Consequently, to combat these challenges, it's become absolutely necessary for the government to spearhead transformational initiatives. These include, but not limited to, prioritizing climate-resilient horticulture through focusing on drought-tolerant crops, water irrigation efficiency, vertical farming, and leveraging technology to empower farming data-driven decision-making resources to optimize productivity.
Mr. Callender says government has implemented a strategic initiative which includes diversification and a shift from stable monocrops to climate-resilient crops such as cassava and sweet potatoes.
Technology adoption, thus engaging the concept of precise horticulture, hydroponics, and the planting of drought-resistant seed varieties. 3, protected horticulture through the use of greenhouses, farms, and vertical horticulture, and policy integration through which horticulture policy aligns with the national nutrition policy, in addition to the commitment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the Conference on Climate Change 28, generally referred to as COP.
The agricultural official says partnerships will also play an integral part in development, and the Barbados Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation is central in securing food security.
Through strategic partnership, the BADMC has, 1, developed value-added products that extend shelf life and reduce waste. Examples are sweet potato, breadfruit, and cassava flowers, sweet potato cereal and sorbets, and cassava-based snacks. 2, created new markets for farmers by branding and distributing these products locally and regionally under the brand Kiramita. Pioneer agro-processing hubs that turn imperfect produce into nutritious, affordable staples, thereby directly linking farm outputs to consumer plates.
Mr. Callender is calling on stakeholders to invest in research and development for climate-smart products and eat what we grow and grow what we eat. Trevor Thorpe for the Business Report.
Sports Night is brought to you by Power Inn. Pause is power. And by Dasani. Live first, Dasani after.
Well, Damien is back for the second round of sports.
Thanks so much, Tisha. Well, Barbadian football star Thierry Gill scored twice as English League club Bolton Wanderers thrashed Shrewsbury Town FC 5-2 yesterday at New Meadow during a pre-season friendly. Gill opened the scoring in the 21st minute after cutting inside and unleashing an unstoppable strike into the top corner, and then added a second in the 60th minute. It's the first time that Gill has netted for the club after completing a transfer worth 1.9 million Barbados dollars from Austrian side Rapid Vienna. His move to Bolton made him one of the highest value footballers ever from Barbados. Well, the Barbadian Bash, a tentative title for a professional boxing card, is set for the Lloyd Erskine Sandifer Center in 3 months' time. Jigat Promotions out of the USA is aiming to stage the 10-bout card on October 25th here in Barbados. The feature fight will see USA-based Barbadian boxer Cobia Soldier Breedy taking on an opponent that will be revealed shortly, and his brother Jabali Breedy making his pro debut. Cobia's manager and promoter of the card, Jeff Gatlin, has already visited Barbados to lay the groundwork for the event.
Kobe and I were there from July 9th. Kobe was there until the 14th. I was there from July 9th to the 12th. And I was there for the specific reason of bringing Barbados, I think will be its first big boxing event on Saturday, October 25th. And the purpose of the event is to bring Kobe home along with Keithling King for their homecoming fights, as well as a pro debut of Kobe's brother, Jabali Breedy. And we plan to have 9 pro fights, which includes a young lady who's undefeated and 1 amateur bout. And we plan to have it at the Lloyd Erskine Center. I think it's going to be a packed and sold out affair, and I think it will be probably the best boxing Barbados has ever witnessed. I plan to, 9 of the fighters will be local Bajans, and 1 fighter will be a gentleman from Guyana who's a former world champ. I think his name is Dexter Allen, former world champion, who's going to come over and fight for us. So it's going to be, no one's being used from the States. It's all Bajan affair with me using and utilizing the folks of Barbados.
Gatlin also says the focus will be on creating a pathway for sports tourism around boxing in Barbados.
I think once we put this event off, it's going to be so electrifying, we're going to need a bigger stadium, because I think my goal is to not come over that day and have a show for Kobe. My goal here is for Kobe and I to create a brand, if you will, where boxing can be brought to Barbados, whether Kobe's on the card or not, to the tune of 2 or 3 times a year, to give the fans some true professional boxing, something to look forward to. There will be an outing for Barbados with a few other people coming in maybe to fight, but I wanted to make it for Barbados and also increase the tourism, because with these boxers coming in, they have their own fans, whether it's social media fans or fight fans.
It's the second attempt by Brady and his camp to stage a pro card in Barbados after the homecoming event was cancelled late last year due to various challenges. However, this time, Kobia says the prospect of boxing in front of his home fans is on track, and he believes it will help lift the profile of the sport locally and regionally.
I think it will be a great movie scene for the public to actually, every person that's on the card, and bring all their fan base up to see them perform at a professional event that never happened before. You know, we've been starving for professional boxing for years now, and we finally about to get it. I feel like this is going to be an exciting moment for them leading up to the fights, because the fights that we have on the card is going to be knockouts. It's going to be knockouts. I think this will move the needed a little more. I think it will get more support, you know, from the government or from the public coming out and support boxing even more, because, you know, the whole back was so long is no fights going on. There's nobody that has a bigger reputation or name to, or people that could come and put something together that could make boxing get the spotlight more on it. And I feel this event here will do that job.
And that's news. Thank you so much for joining us. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.